we left off, we had finished the Eastern playoffs. Okay. A little bit of an easier, more direct one to break down. Now we get into the West, which is wildly complicated because right now, 1, 2, and 3 are all still up for grabs right now. The teams are separated by a game in total. Yeah, exactly.
One game.
So it's extremely close. And then you drop off a little bit with the Clippers and the Mavericks. The Clips are 5 games back, so they're more or less kind of in their spot. Really, we just have to figure out kind of what's going to happen at 1, 2, and 3. And then we also have to figure out the 6 and the 7 could be a little bit in play, depending on what happens there between Phoenix and New Orleans. But as it stands right now.
And there's a massive matchup going on tonight. Dallas is playing the Warriors.
Yes,
right?
they are. That's the late game.
That is the late game.
That's the late game. That's a big game.
Huge game.
I'm going to have to stay up and watch that one, too, because that's got huge playoff implications, too, as well. Golden State, too. I mean, they are at that 10th seed right now, but I mean, nipping and biting at their heels is the Houston Rockets, who had just come off of, I believe, like a 12-game winning streak before they lost to Dallas the other night. So Golden State is really the team right now. I think like they have no room for error. Like they lose a couple, and I mean they could be in,
and they do have an easy schedule.
They do,
right? But
they do.
They gotta really win out to stay in it.
100%.
All the other teams, right? You look at the Lakers at 43 and 33. You look at Sacramento at 43 and 31. Phoenix at 44 and 31, as well as the Pelicans,
45 and 30.
At 45 and 30, and Dallas at 45 and 29. They're all right there.
I know, it's crazy.
They're all within 2 games. And
Dallas has been on a little bit of a hot
play.
streak lately,
They
too.
have, and they all have to play each other.
I know.
Right? So Dallas could really fortify their position, right, by beating the Warriors and, starting to, really make a run at that 4 seed now.
Absolutely. No, this is really crazy just because it's so hard to break it down. But let's try to break it down as if the seeds ended like this today.
Sure.
All right, so let's break it down like that. So OKC would be the 1. Denver would be the 2. Minnesota would be the 3. The Clippers would be the 4. Dallas would be the 5. New Orleans would be the 6, although I have a feeling they're not going to end up there. But Phoenix is going to be the 7, Sacramento the 8, and then the final 2 play-in teams, the Los Angeles Lakers at 9, the Golden State Warriors at 10. So starting with the play-in matchups, that would leave Phoenix versus Sacramento, and then LA versus Golden State for the first round of those games. You and I had this discussion either last week or a week before, and you had actually picked the Lakers. I picked Golden State. Since the Lakers have made this lineup change, playing Rui Hachimura in the starting lineup now, I've reversed my course on this. Now, that's not to
that's
say...
just a common theme with you,
listen,
let the record show.
Let me just say something. When you get
backpedaling a little bit,
smart people react to new information
here
or
we
data,
go.
as they might say.
All right,
there's new data, so I've got to react. But here's what I'll say about that game. I think the Lakers present a very large matchup problem to the Warriors just because of their size and their starting lineup. When you bring in Rui, it's just that much bigger now of a 3, 4, and 5 that they can send out there. That's not to say at the same time, Steph could go nuclear and just have one of those games and they could just go win a game. But I think if the 2 teams more or less play to their averages, their strengths, and how they both play basketball, I think the Lakers will be too much. AD has always been a bit of a problem for the Warriors. And the problem now with the Lakers inserting Rui is, okay, you have Draymond to throw at AD at times and LeBron at times. You have a Looney who can at least go and lean up against AD at times. They also have the young kid. It's actually, I believe, one of the Davis brothers from Indiana Pacers' son. It's Jackson something Davis. I'm forgetting his middle name. He's not bad too, but again, younger player. Now you're depending on him for more important, crucial playoff minutes. I just think the Lakers are going to present too much size and matchup problems to the Warriors. I like the Lakers in that play-in game.
Definitely.
If that's the scenario.
Definitely. I don't even have to add anything to that. I talked about it last week. I definitely think the Lakers are taking that matchup.
Yeah. So now the other one is Phoenix and Sacramento. Now, I'll tell you my thoughts on this based on their regular season matchups and just the overall talent and experience factor, I like Phoenix in this matchup.
Definitely.
They got two killers.
This is what they're playing for.
This is exactly what they played
they're
for.
playing
This is
for.
what they got. This is what they got all these guys together for.
Agreed.
I just can't see a one-game scenario where, as good as Monk and who is the younger stud point guard, De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox. Yep.
De'Aaron Fox and Monk, as good of a backcourt as they have been, I just don't see that talent overcoming Kevin Durant. Booker's been on a tear late too, and
the Kings
Bradley
have
Beal.
the Kings have an interesting schedule, right? That's what I was just looking at. They play the Clippers, they play the Knicks in New York, they play Boston in Boston. Then they have the Nets, they play the Thunder in Thunder, and
That's a tough finish for them,
right? And they still have the Pelicans, they still have the Suns, and they end the season with the Blazers. So when you start to think about that,
So Sacramento could
you know,
fall
so
back
there's
too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games left. They can go 4-4. They go 4-4. I could see the Suns jumping up into that 6th seed. I think
So
Dallas.
I could see New Orleans.
I think
falling back.
Dallas is going to hold on. I think
I
the
agree.
Suns are going to finish 6th. But as in this current
I think
matchup,
the top 5 is going to be more or less what it is.
yeah, now here's the thing. Dallas has a really easy schedule. They have the Warriors tonight, then they have the Hawks, right, in Dallas. They have the Warriors again in Dallas. They have the Rockets in Dallas. Then they play the Hornets, the Heat, the Pistons, and at the end of the season, they have the Thunder.
That's a
The
great
Thunder might not be
finish.
playing for anything at
Yeah.
the end of the season. So I think Dallas, based on the schedule, is going to be solidified in that 4-5 seed. And I think Phoenix is going to move up just
I agree
based on
with you.
scheduling. And I think it's going to be a hell of a run. In a perfect world, I would like to see Phoenix, the Lakers, and the Warriors in it. So if the Phoenix can move up, and it's a matchup between the Pelicans and the Lakers and Sacramento and the Warriors, I think that's what NBA fans want. So they both
They
can
don't want the
win.
possibility of the Lakers and Golden State possibly
Yeah.
not making the playoffs. Because that'd be crazy if you had a playoffs without LeBron James or Steph Curry.
Exactly.
That would be really crazy. And the league would not want that either. I honestly think, though, even though that would be disappointing, I still think it would be okay because it's just there's so much talent in the league right now in the playoffs. Sets up some awesome scenarios.
But think about the matchup. What if it's the Oklahoma Thunder versus the Warriors, right? 1-8. And then the Nuggets versus the Lakers, 2-7. Minnesota 3 versus the Suns at 6. And then the 4-5 matchup is Clippers and Dallas. That might be the best possible scenario for the NBA. We're talking 7-game series, heavyweight matchup, and you got young versus old with the Thunder and the Warriors, right? Is this the new guard?
Sure.
It would be the Nuggets versus the Lakers, right? Guess what? They're healthy. It's the beginning, right? So remember, the Nuggets swept them last year, if I'm not mistaken, in the conference finals.
Yeah.
Right. So
No, they
they
did.
got revenge on their mind, and then Minnesota playing Phoenix. Right, that opening round matchup could be like Minnesota. If you're for real, take down Booker and Kevin Durant.
yeah.
And then it's wide open to you.
Sure. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the possibility of Denver playing LA in a first round matchup because I thought this was a bit of an interesting take by Nick Wright, and I think it was last week. He said, if you were the Lakers and you know that you inevitably have to go through Denver anyway, wouldn't you rather go through them in the first round while LeBron is as fresh as he's possibly going to be in a
Exactly.
playoff series? He's 39 years old. You know, LeBron going through 2 tough or kind of grind out series in the West and then having to play the Nuggets, probably not going to work. He's only been through 2 more grueling series beforehand, and you know that's going to be a longer series. Why not just get that matchup right away and strike while the iron's hot? Like, that's the freshest you're ever going to get, LeBron. That's the freshest you're ever going to get the Lakers at large, a healthy AD and whatnot too. I'm not saying that they necessarily beat them, but maybe that opens up the door as the best pathway for them to possibly go and compete and maybe beat the Nuggets.
And listen, let's give Anthony Davis some credit, right? He played like 90-95% of his games this year.
Yeah, he's been awesome this year.
right?
He has been awesome.
You know, so all of a sudden, if he continues that, it's interesting to see what they could be. But I think best case scenario, the Lakers see the Nuggets in terms of that matchup.
Sure.
See them in the first round versus in the conference finals.
And listen, guys, we're doing this now too, obviously, because we want to cover it because there's some meaningful games still left. But we can always rehash and then go through it again once the actual seeds come out.
Absolutely.
Because
we're 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
We're
The
2
West
weeks
is
away,
insane. We
right?
have
If
about
I'm not
8
mistaken,
games, I think, left in the season.
the
for most
last
teams.
game is on the 14th.
Yeah.
Right? So we're 10
So we'll
days away.
definitely go through like an actual playoff preview once the seeds get finalized too as well. But if we're looking at it like that, so the first series on paper, wow. So we have to do this with this is so weird for me to do without the Warriors or the Lakers in the playoffs, but we'll do it that way. OKC versus Sacramento in the first round. It's a tough one because there's two young teams, and technically the experience side is on Sacramento's. They've been to the playoffs at least more recently, the OKC. But I'm going to take that one. I think the experience is a minimal advantage.
So I thought you said you thought the Lakers would win, right?
Oh, yes, you're right.
it'd
I'm
be,
sorry. So it would be the
Thunder,
Lakers.
Lakers.
My bad.
So in the scenario that we just described,
You're right.
if we just
I
go
didn't
off of what's there, all right, Thunders versus the Lakers in round 1.
Thunder versus the Lakers in round 1. You are correct. Thank you. I'm going to take the Lakers there. And the reason I'm going to take the Lakers is, again, size and experience. While OKC has been extremely good during this regular season, they really have no size behind Chet Holmgren. I think AD will be able to match up with Chet Holmgren on the defensive side. I think he also presents problems to Chet Holmgren just from Chet's going to really have to play defense on that side. And I think it's going to leave the lane wide open for LeBron to go and do major work because they really don't have any big bodies to match up with him. And I think it will just force OKC to be in somewhat of a mismatch schematically defensively for a better part of the series. I like LA, and I would like that I'd like them in about 6 games in that series.
I think the Lakers in 5 in that particular matchup. That is the team the Lakers want to see in the first round.
I like it. So then we have Denver now pitting them against our scenario, said the Suns. Okay. So Denver versus the Suns. I'll let you go first.
I think that's a 7-game series, and I think it's really a toss-up because both teams are going to be turning it on. I'm going to give the Thunder the respect, the Nuggets the respect that they deserve. But I give the Suns a real puncher's chance in that matchup. They just took down the Nuggets the other night. And so I'm going to lean towards the Nuggets in that particular situation. But it would be a 7-game series.
Well, so like with pro sports, so much of it is about matchups. And I'm with you. I love Denver. But if there's one team in this bracket that presents the most matchup problems to them, I agree with you. I do think it's the Phoenix Suns. Their ability to be able to go small sometimes with Kevin Durant at the 5 really puts Denver in a predicament defensively because it forces Jokic away from the basket and it gets Denver into much more of kind of uncomfortable rotations to where they're going to have to be playing much more defense. Now, having said that, the difference to me is just which of the two teams has executed more consistently over the course of the regular season. And going back to last season, obviously, too, that's the Denver Nuggets. So I like the Denver Nuggets, but I'm with you. I would not be shocked at all if it went 7 games. I'm going to say Denver in 6, though.
And I would say the difference maker, whatever team's bench showed up in that matchup is going to be the deciding factor in that game.
Good call. And Denver's bench, while young, has improved a lot over the course of the season, too. So that now puts Minnesota
versus New Orleans.
Yes, at the 3-6 matchup. I would take Minnesota in this matchup. I think they are the better defensive team, and I think they've showed that for the course of this regular season. New Orleans has been nice. It's good to see Zion finally playing and being healthy. I don't like their front line defensively. I don't like their team overall, performance-wise, offensive or defensively. They're not great at any one thing. They've got Zion and like a couple of other athletes, but in terms of a pure basketball team, they leave some things to be desired. Minnesota is, I think they're the best defensive team in the league right now, and no one can stop Anthony Edwards right now, so I like Minnesota in that matchup.
I think this is the perfect matchup for Minnesota because the Pelicans cannot match up with Minnesota. What makes Zion so good is that he loves to play in the post, right? Quick movement. All of a sudden, if you have Gobert, if you have, Karl Anthony Towns. And their backup center, I think it's like Naz Reid.
Okay.
He's another big body that can really pose some problems for Zion. And so I think that is where they fall short, and not getting that points and rebounds from Zion would be the difference maker.
Naz Reid, you are correct.
And I would give that to Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. They have the bodies to go match up and frustrate someone like a Zion, especially come the playoffs, because he can sit there and do all that high flying, but it becomes much more condensed down by the lane and rim area. So that's kind of what playoff basketball is about. And Minnesota, I think, is built well for the postseason. They got a lot of size. They're just good defensively in general, too. I love McDaniels. Finally, this might be the most exciting first-round matchup of the Western Conference. At 4 and 5, you would get the LA Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. Now, on paper, I would sit there and tell you that this is a great matchup for the Clippers because they have multiple wing defenders that can go and match up and guard somebody like a Luka. Here's the issue. Luka, for one, right now is playing out of his mind. The dude's like a man possessed. Looks like a dude who's really determined to get to get to the NBA Finals this year. But even if you're able to guard Luka and somewhat frustrate him, they got Kyrie who can just go and get buckets at any given time. Luka without Kyrie, I believe it was 2 years ago, pushed this series to like a 6 or 7 game series in the first round. With the Kyrie, with the additions they made on their front line too, with Gafford, and I think PJ Washington is the other guy. This team is playing hot right now. They're entering the playoffs on a nice streak. Luka looks like a man on a mission. I like Dallas to pull off the upset in this series and go beat the LA Clippers.
I don't even think it's going to be an upset. I think Dallas definitely wins, right? I think they win in 5 games. There's just,
5.
Gentleman's sweep. I think when it comes to the Clippers, we saw their potential, right? When they won, I think it was like
the health and
20,
consistency.
and they won 20 out of 24 games. Something of that nature. But ultimately, I think there's no true leader on that team. Kawhi is not a vocal leader. No. Paul George doesn't want to be it. You can't follow James Harden. Russell Westbrook is too old, no longer as athletic, and is just not his team. And so I think they're going to fall apart. I thought they were going to have the ability to turn it on. I don't think they have it left. I think, PG and Kawhi, they're playing for the bag. Kawhi just got his bag. PG's going to get his bag over the summer, and I think they're going to be happy. And I don't think for them it's about truly winning a chip. So versus Dallas, they're hungry. They want it. They look like they enjoy playing together. They play fast. And if one of them can slow down Luka, to your point, there's nobody to stop Kyrie.
Yeah, man. I think it's a great series on paper, but I like the way Dallas has looked, especially to end the season. And I have not liked how the Clippers have finished off this season. It's funny because middle of the season, they looked like they could have been the best team in the West. And it hasn't worked out or finished that way.
Yeah, you saw their apex. And I think that's just through coaching, right? But ultimately,
very well could
now
be.
Again, I'll say this. If James Harden shows up, right, and he ends up being the offensive focus where he's dropping 25 and 12, then that might be the difference maker, right, that they need. But defensively, I don't see it from them right now.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I haven't liked the way the season has finished up for them. And I like that you brought up the James Harden point because, again, he's kind of going into his James Harden thing just as the postseason comes near.
But if he wants that back, he's got to show up during the playoffs.
He does. He absolutely does. All right. So let us know what you think about some of those playoffs or series picks, or how you think maybe the final seeds will break down. Give us some feedback in those comments.